All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling the epic story of modern India. It's a story packed with triumphs, tragedies, and the absolute audacity it took to build the world's largest democracy, pretty much from the ashes of an empire. So to really get a handle on modern India, you have to start right here, in 1947. And these words from the historian Ramachandra Guha, they just capture the moment perfectly. See, this wasn't just about celebrating independence, it was about pure survival. The country was born in the middle of the horrifying violence of partition. We're talking millions of refugees, unimaginable bloodshed, and on top of all of that, the very real threat of mass starvation. And that brings us to the huge, almost unbelievable question at the heart of this whole story. Just try to picture it. A brand new country that's more diverse than all of Europe combined. Hundreds of languages, all the major religions, all born from absolute chaos. I mean, the British were convinced it would just fall apart. So how on earth did it not just survive, but go on to become the world's largest democracy? Well, the answer starts in that first critical decade after independence. This was a time when a really remarkable generation of leaders faced a set of challenges so massive that honestly, any single one of them could have shattered the new nation right from the get-go. First step, just the basic task of putting the country together. This number, over 500, that's how many semi-independent princely states existed. Each one had to be convinced, or sometimes pushed, to join the new Indian Union. It was like solving the most complex political jigsaw puzzle you can possibly imagine. And here's something that's absolutely crucial to understand. This wasn't a one-man show. It was a partnership between two giants, who were, let's be honest, very different people. You had Jawaharlal Nehru, the visionary prime minister, the one setting the big democratic ideals. And then you had Sardar Patel, the hard-nosed pragmatist, the unifier, who did the gritty, tough work of actually getting those 500-plus states to sign on. They were equals, and without that partnership, it's hard to see how it would have worked. Okay, so you have a country. Now you need a rule book. And what's so fascinating here is that writing the Indian Constitution was itself an act of healing. The leaders actually reached out to one of their fiercest lifelong political rivals, B.R. Ambedkar. Why? Because they knew he had a colossal legal brain and they needed the best. So you had over 240 members from dozens of different political camps, all debating every single clause to create one single foundational document for everybody. And this just shows the incredible faith of that founding generation. They took what many outsiders called the greatest gamble in history. In a country where 85% of the people couldn't read or write, they gave every single adult the right to vote. It was a totally radical bet on the wisdom of the common person. So just think about that first decade. They survived partition, they healed from the trauma of Gandhi's assassination, they held the largest election in human history, and then they did something that sounds counterintuitive but was totally brilliant. They redrew the map based on language. You'd think that would be divisive, but it was profoundly unifying. By giving each major language its own political home, India basically validated its own diversity. And that one move helped it avoid the kind of brutal civil wars over language that would later tear apart neighbors like Sri Lanka and Pakistan. But after that initial burst of incredible nation-building, the real tests were about to begin. India's young democracy was going to be strained to its breaking point by war, by internal turmoil, and by a leader whose legacy is as celebrated as it is controversial. The first major blow landed in 1962. A short, brutal border war with China ended in a humiliating defeat for India. This wasn't just about losing territory. It completely shattered the nation's confidence, and it deeply weakened Nehru, the man who had guided the country from day one. A whole decade of disillusionment started to creep in. And into this new, uncertain environment stepped Nehru's daughter, Indira Gandhi. Her legacy is really a study in contrasts. On one side, she was this triumphant war leader, celebrated for India's huge victory in the 1971 war that actually led to the creation of Bangladesh. But then, there was the other side of the coin, a darker, deeply authoritarian side to her rule. And this is that dark side laid bare. She was facing a political crisis. A court had even invalidated her election. So what did she do? She declared a national emergency. For 19 months, democracy was just suspended. The press was muzzled, civil liberties vanished, and tens of thousands of her political opponents were thrown in jail. It is still the darkest chapter in India's democratic history.
Then, in a move that absolutely stunned everybody who thought she'd just cling to power, Indira Gandhi called for elections in 1977. And guess what? She was voted out. A big coalition of opposition parties, called the Janata Party, took power on this huge wave of hope. But that hope didn't last long. Turns out, the only thing they all agreed on was that they disliked her. The coalition quickly fell apart in bitter infighting, paving the way for her to come right back to power just 3 years later. So this brings us into the 1980s and 90s, and this period saw a massive reinvention of India, driven by 3 powerful new forces that basically all collided at once and reshaped the country's economy, politics, and society forever. To really understand this era, you have to know about these 3 colliding forces, the 3 M's. First, Mandir, which means temple, representing the powerful rise of political Hinduism. Second, Mandal, named for a commission that recommended huge affirmative action programs, which unleashed the political power of lower castes like never before. And finally, market, because a nearly bankrupt India was forced to ditch its old socialist ways and open its economy to the world. The results of these forces, all crashing together, created the India we see today. Economic liberalization got rid of the stifling license raj, this insane web of permits that had choked business for decades. And that's what ignited the IT boom. But at the exact same time, the politics of religion and caste created these deep new social fractures, divisions that, as one historian put it, torment us till today. And that brings our story right up to the present day. After all these decades of triumphs and tragedies, what is the state of Indian democracy today? Well, the simplest answer is that it remains, as it always has been, a work in progress. I think this quote captures modern India better than anything else. Is the glass half full? You bet. It's a resilient, united republic, it's an economic powerhouse, and a place of incredible innovation. But is the glass also half empty? Yeah, that's also true. India is grappling with deep religious and social divisions, institutional decay, and just profound inequality. Both things are true at the exact same time. So this story is far from over. As India asserts itself as a global power, the world's largest, most chaotic, and most improbable democratic experiment just keeps on going. The only real question is, which way will the balance tip?